Last time, we talked about how photographers almost never practice, we only perform. But once you give yourself permission to practice, what should you actually work on? Well, the simple answer is practice the stuff you're not good at. We're going to go more specific than that. You can divide practice topics into two categories, technical and aesthetic. So here is a far from complete, in no particular order, may not all apply to you, list of technical things to practice. If you don't understand some of what I'm saying here, that's okay. You just need to find a little training, and doing that is another form of practice. In the description, I'll list some resources. Let's start with a very beginner exercise. When you half press your camera's shutter button, it shows you your chosen exposure settings in the camera's viewfinder. One of those settings is shutter speed. On any shot, it's critical that your shutter speed not be so slow that you risk handheld shake. That means you need to have the habit of checking shutter speed on your first shot in any new lighting situation. If you don't know where your shutter speed readout is, figure that out by looking in your manual, then go on a walk and do some shooting. But with every shot, be aware of your shutter speed. Know what it is. Eventually, you want this to be such a reflexive habit that you don't even know you're doing it. Now, once you have this habit, the reality will be that you'll take a look at your shutter speed, adjust it if you need to, and then if your lighting situation isn't changing, if you're working the shot in a way that you know won't affect shutter speed, then you won't actually keep track of it for every shot. The point of this exercise, though, is to help you begin to develop the habit of an awareness of shutter speed. As for what shutter speed you should look for, in daylight, don't let it go lower than a 60th of a second. You're going to want to learn a more refined calculation, and I've got resources for learning that listed in the description. ISO is another one that you need to be in the habit of keeping track of. If you shoot in auto ISO, are you in the habit of knowing if the camera has cranked the ISO very high? You need to always be aware of this so that you can keep noise down. So at the same time that you're practicing awareness of shutter speed, do the same for ISO. Yes, there is a lot to keep track of when you're making a photo. More exercises. Once you're in control, once you're habitually paying attention to shutter speed, you can practice manipulating it. Do you know how to intentionally blur a moving subject? Can you pan to get motion blur while shooting a moving subject? Can you do all of this in bright light when you'll need to stop down or possibly use a neutral density filter? Go out and find a busy intersection and practice taking control of the motion blur of passing cars. Depth of field control. Can you get deep depth of field when you're shooting a landscape? Can you get shallow depth of field when shooting a portrait? When you're shooting something in between, are you getting the depth of field that you want placed at the depth that you need it? It's easy to practice this. Get a long table, set something at the front, something in the middle, and something at the back, and then try getting each thing in focus. Then try everything in focus. Then the front two things, then the back two things. Then go outside and try the same thing with objects at longer distances. Do you have trouble controlling your camera's autofocus? Then practice that. Make sure you know how to get the camera to focus on a specific point in the frame. Make sure you know how to read where the autofocus has chosen to focus. Don't wait until you're trying to focus on a scene that's changing quickly to learn how to do things. Related to that, can you accurately focus at extremely wide apertures? If you've got an f1.2 lens, then getting focus right in a portrait can be tricky when you're shooting wide open. Practice that. Practice it on a civilian outside of a shoot before you're dealing with a model. It's important that a model always have confidence in your ability, so you don't want to practice on their time. Certain specialized forms of shooting have particular techniques that require practice, and it's better to get that practice in before you're shooting something that you actually care about. Macro photography, astrophotography, working with a tilt-shift lens, flashes and strobes. Spend time practicing with your specialized gear so that you're ready to use it in an actual shoot. If you work with lighting, there's lots of stuff to practice, whether you use continuous lights, studio strobes, or handheld speed lights. Practice how to control your flashes and strobes. Practice flash exposure. Practice where to put your lights. Practice using your lighting modifiers. You don't want to be solving lighting problems while a model waits around. Finally, look through your archive. Look for technical things that consistently go wrong. Figure out what causes them, and then go practice solutions. The practice the things you're not good at idea isn't a bad one. As for how you practice each of these things, either find or contrive situations that exercise these techniques. For example, to practice lighting, set an egg on a stool. That gets you a surprisingly complex subject that you can light in a lot of different ways. One of the nice things about almost all of these exercises is that you can do them indoors, so they're a great activity for times when the weather is bad or when you don't have time to go somewhere else to shoot. And perhaps the most important thing about any of this photography practice stuff, when you're done, the measure of success is not whether you got any keeper images. The measure of success is, did you practice the thing you wanted to work on? Playing scales on a musical instrument doesn't have to be performance-worthy. That exercise is about ear training and theory. Your practice of flash photos of an egg needs to be correct expressions of flash technique, not great photos. Keep a list of practice ideas and expect that you're going to need to engage in these specific practice techniques repeatedly. It takes time to get good at something.